Our ability, our awareness, our consciousness is the constant that allows us to create what we have, and we have created AI.
In the middle of any transformation, the role of a guide, the role of a coach couldn't be understated. That's the role that keeps you grounded and keeps you sort of on track to match up with the innovations that happen around you.
The wisdom to know when to leverage AI and human judgment. These are both extremely critical to how we emerge as people, as a community, as families, as workplaces. Coaches need to step into this as far more grounded humans than we ever have.
Welcome everyone to the session number 3, the future of work, people and coaching. It's my pleasure to invite our moderator for the session, Mr. Krishna Praveen. We call him KP. KP has been serving on the board of the ICF Hyderabad Charter Chapter since 2022, initially as a director, member experience, and now as president. KP has over 2.5 decades of experience in the industry, spanning across web development, business analysis, project, program management, delivery excellence, agile transformation functions. He currently leads the agile transformation function at Virtusa, working with their clients, providing solutioning and thought leadership around the processes, culture, and tools needed to implement agile thinking. It's my pleasure to invite KP onto the stage.
All right. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone based on where you're joining. Welcome to this second panel of into the philosophies of ancient wisdom and how it was connected very beautifully with the uh, um, the competencies of ICF coaching competencies. In this current panel, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip into the wisdom of the panelists and look at what is future holding for us. What is the future of work looking like? What is future of leadership looking like? And what is future of coaching looking like? And to help me make sense of this, I am joined by three panelists. I'm going to introduce each one of them in this order. First of all, let me please join me in welcoming Preeti DeMello onto the stage. Preeti DeMello is a transformational leadership coach and an organizational psychologist with more than 5,000 hours of coaching experience. Preeti's work is based on a single belief that individual fulfillment drives organizational success. She's coached more than 500, coached a lot of Fortune 500 executives, emerging leaders, and potential leaders. And these people have spanned across IT services, manufacturing, financial services, and educational sectors. Preeti integrates frameworks from positive psychology, gestalt psychology, neuroscience, and intentional change theory. Her practice is shaped by the polarity lens, process oriented psychology, and adult development theory. And she supports leaders as they develop psychological safety, executive presence, and more importantly, anti fragile leadership in the face of complexity. Preeti has helped build coaching centers of excellence and develop more than 800 international internal coaches through ICF accredited programs. One such initiative coached over 12,000 senior leaders and enabled their development as leader coaches, a book of work that actually earned a special recognition from Harvard University. In 2021, her work was recognized by ICF through the ICF Prism Award, which is the gold standard in organizational coaching. Preeti holds a professional certified coach credential from ICF and is a Gestalt professional certified coach through the Gestalt Institute of Cleveland. She also serves on the global board of the International Coaching Federation Coaching in Organizations Initiative. And I can go on, but I'll stop here and invite Preeti onto the stage. Thank you, Preeti, for joining us.
Thank you. Lovely to be here. Just one quick correction. I'm no longer on the board, on the ICF board. I was with them till last day. Lovely to be
Sure.
here. Looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you, Preeti. Thank you for joining us. Next up, let me invite to the stage Radha Shilat. Uh, Radha Shilat is a pioneering technical leader, entrepreneur, mentor, and she was instrumental in developing Pune's IT landscape. Radha, along with her late husband Ajit, were among the first IT leaders to successfully establish and lead global technology companies in city when the city was emerging to become a tech hub. She played a very key role in establishing and expanding Veritas software, later acquired by Symantec in India, and led storage technology development. And she holds a lot of patents in file systems. Veritas was a very fast growing Silicon Valley software company and was later acquired by Symantec. Radha served as one of the global CTOs during this transition, and under her leadership, Veritas India formed a top technology team which focused on product innovation, and it set apart from other Indian firms which were mainly offering IT services. She then moved on to set up a startup called Evergrid Librato Software in collaboration with the founders of the US. SolarWinds later acquired Librato. She then moved on to Nevis Networks, which was founded by her late husband Ajit, a pioneer in chip networking and security technology. Nevis Networks became a global provider of land security solutions and delivered advanced technologies from India to both domestic and international clients. Nevis was eventually acquired by Qualsys. Radha has now moved on and she is now an advisor and mentor to Dhruva engineering team and has an agenda to look deeper into the system for opportunities and ways to scale the productivity of development teams. She also brings a strong academic foundation. She holds a PhD from the Institute of Technology, Banaras Hindu University, and she has taught and consulted at premier institutions like IIT Bombay and IIM Ahmedabad. And it reflects her deep commitment to knowledge building and mentorship. Welcome, Radha, to the stage.
Thanks, Praveen. And happy to be here. And I'm actually very privileged to be here and looking forward to our conversation, our panel, and you being there coordinating it.
Thank you, Radha. Thank you. And then a gentleman to balance the super ladies, Samir Kamath. Samir Kamath is the CEO of Zenrelo Loyalty, a AI-driven enterprise loyalty platform, and Tint, a leading community-powered marketing platform. Samir is a seasoned technology executive and was previously the CEO of FileStack, leading it through the successful acquisition by Idera. Before that, he has held strategy and product management roles at Unitrends and drove innovation and growth. Samir's career spans leadership roles across SaaS, MarTech, and enterprise software, and focused on scaling businesses at the intersection of data, loyalty, and customer engagement. Samir is a graduate of Texas A&M University. He currently resides in Texas, but born and raised in Pune. That's his connection to ICF Pune. And he brings a global perspective to building customer-centric technology companies. Welcome, Samir, to the panel.
Good morning, good evening. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be in the company of Preeti and Radha and yourself. Looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you, Samir. Um, I was just joking in the backstage that the combined experience of all the panelists is a little over 100 years, and what better than this panel to look forward into the next maybe at least 20 years and see what's the future of work holding for us. So, since Samir, you have the mic, why don't I start off with you? What is future looking for you? Where do you think we are heading in terms of what will happen on the workspace?
It's a great question. I think we are at the cusp. In fact, we are probably in the middle of the biggest technology innovation evolution that we have witnessed. And in order for companies to thrive, for employees to find joy, there's going to be a need to evolve, both in how we find our North Star and keep our purpose grounded, which is the roots portion of it, and how technology and AI can absolutely amplify, giving you the wings part of the conversation. Uh, but in order to do so, there'll be some key characteristics of how both companies and employees evolve. And I think from my point of view, adaptability is going to be the absolute key. So as we look out probably a decade from now, the way that work will be performed, the way that businesses will interact with their customers, everything that we know about it will be different. And you've got to get ready. And in the middle of any transformation, the role of a guide, the role of a coach couldn't be understated. I think that's the role that keeps you grounded and keeps you sort of on track to match up with the innovations that happen around you. So I think it's going to be an era of absolute productivity and prosperity when we get through equilibrium of this technology change. Looking forward to it.
Sure. Thanks, Samir. I'll move to Radha and gather her thoughts. As a technologist, Radha, where do you think we are headed? How's technology going to shape the way we work in future?
So, before answering the question on the future, if I go back, I have been in the industry and seen the technology growth from a mainframe. My first programming assignment, my PhD work calculations were done on a mainframe to today, sitting here and discussing this thing about the future. If I go back 20 years, if I go back 10 years, if I go back even 15 years, today we are the fact that we are doing this meet here, this conference, the way we are doing this itself is like, could I describe this future 10 years back or not? And layers and layers and layers of technology, which luckily I have been part of that, have made it happen. So there is network, there is internet, there are computers, laptops, all this put together, and then there is this application we are using. So the future has been this technology and things have been evolving continuously, but we got very used to it. Like it came little gradually. So cloud came, it came over 2 3 years. Internet came, it became very widespread over few years, and everything helped us grow and evolve. Like today, I mean, a digital payment system and just going and tapping my phone somewhere and paying and all. Who would have seen this 15 years back, or who would have imagined? So again, we are at that cusp where something big is happening. And the buzzword earlier was IT enabled businesses. And now we are going to what we will say AI enabled businesses. And that is definitely the future. There is huge amount of investment work happening towards that. And so if I am a technologist, if I am part of that development, if I am part of developing the AI, that intelligence, and designing systems, architecting, I'm very excited, very happy. And that's a very exciting future. I am part of a large enterprise that is going to use it as a tool and can see a lot more in efficiency, productivity, growth. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that I have to reduce the team or size of the organization. I can get more out of the same organization and maybe deliver more. And then I also see that as a leader, I have to be very careful because it's very tempting to go more towards AI and use it more and more effectively and eliminate many layers, which are like entry level layers. I think the balancing act of a leader is going to be between these two. The business will do well if we could remove inefficiencies. Yet there are humans in this chain, and especially the bottom of this pyramid where companies have bulk of their people doing all kinds of small to big things to make things happen. So this is what is going to happen, but it's going to be disruptive. And upskilling people, preparing them, enabling. This is what companies are doing also right now. Give them 2 years to enable them with every tool that's possible, give them a couple of years, guide them, and then look at the effectiveness. And definitely there will be decisions that will be taken, which may or may not always work for everyone.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Radha, for that perspective. So, Preeti, I'll move over to you. I mean, you've been a leadership coach. Where do you see the future of work going towards?
KP, I'll pick up from where Radha and Samir left off. It's clear what technology is doing to us, our lives, lifting us in many ways and throwing adequate challenge at us. So I would say that there are, personally, I have a 4 point approach to the future. One is to say, while tech is critical and is changing our lives, but there is also this aspect called people and culture that we can't miss out on.
Mm,
And I would say for too long, we've separated what we do for a living from what gives us our life meaning. And I believe that we're going back to a time where work is not only going to be about expressing efficiency and criticality, which it is. So it's not like negating, it's not picking one over the other, but it's about saying, how do I contribute to something that's bigger than myself? It's, in a sense, I would say, the reunion of purpose and profession. After really centuries of artificial separation that has informed our lives. The second uh, idea that I believe is already manifesting. In fact, I also want to point out that the future is now. The future is not, you know, tomorrow. It's actually now. To Radha's point, to say that there's a trajectory and the trajectory is constantly manifesting itself, is we are moving away and redefining success, saying, from what can I get to what can I give? That phenomenon is completely altered. And we are heading towards, and we are in the midst of interconnected ecosystems rather than enterprises that stood independent of each other. Um, it also, in a sense, says I'm not measured by how much I can accumulate and get together, but how much can I contribute to this web of life and to sustain all life in general. This is leading to breaking down barriers. And while technology is doing what it promised and it's progressing incredibly beautifully, it's throwing up these challenges that we need to constantly work with. And Samir very rightly said, we need to adapt. We need to be nimble. We need to be agile. How do I show up to what is emerging? And that, interestingly, is an internal game. It's not an external game. My mental models, how I'm adapting, how I'm showing up. And to the point of tech, isn't it incredible what we're doing right now? Isn't it incredible that somebody, brilliant young person in an Indian village can talk to somebody in New York? Isn't it incredible that indigenous wisdom now is informing corporate strategy? We're not at a progress stage. I think we're at a transformation stage of our
mm,
own evolution as people. And finally, I would say that we're at a time where there's the idea of heart and business go together. And I know we don't use these words in the corporate sector. We don't say heart and we don't say love and we don't say kindness, but it's all true. It's what informs us. So the old idea that we had to choose between making money and making a difference is gone. The future holds an integrated business model. And this model is about saying, how do I do good while doing well? And they're inseparable because where the most profitable companies are, uh, these are organizations that serve flourishing of all their stakeholders, and we are all stakeholders. Means if I use electricity, I'm a stakeholder in the electricity company.
mm.
That's the shift that we're making, and I think the idea of futurism in itself is altered to bring in the mosaic of change and transformation that surrounds us.
Sure, sure. Thanks for that perspective, Preeti. So, Radha, I just want to move on to you. And you mentioned um, how the technology has evolved, and what we are doing right now was probably unthinkable 5, 10 years, 20 years ago. Now, going forward, how do you see this AI, automation, emerging technologies? How is it going to shape the way we work, and especially in the knowledge intensive industries? Where do you see the role of AI over there?
Actually, AI is very good in learning. It has learned the if you look at the large language models, the whole effort has been for it to learn the text, written text, documents, everything that has been there, and you can say that okay, the PhD thesis and all kinds of healthcare information, all kinds of books, stories, everything. It's once it reads, it can read, learn. The models are continuously evolving, and if you look at ChatGPT from its version 1 to version 5, the capability is huge and has changed significantly. So this is unstoppable in a way. So knowledge industry can be doctors, can be lawyers, can be chartered accountants, can be many things which are repeatable, which is based on the knowledge acquired. It's not like continuously changing knowledge. Our human healthcare systems or our body or whatever, it's very well understood, analyzed, and hundreds of years of knowledge is there. So it will be very intuitive, and it will be actually logical for AI to just build that knowledge. And I mean, a doctor or an OPD in a hospital can all be AI driven. Like, okay, you find a problem, you find a surgical problem, you find something which needs more investigation, goes to a doctor. But as I walk into something like that, like an OPD, and my all my information, personal information, my healthcare information, all that is there. It can, the systems, AI is one part, but the whole machinery of a hospital, for example, where the blood tests happen, you get the reports next day, all this can happen in minutes. So the future of many workplaces will be like that, is definitely going to be like that, because the amount of investment that is happening in this space today, you hear about 100 billion going into this data center, 200 billion going into that data center. All this is going to lead to much more faster adoption of AI, and especially in the spaces where the knowledge is to some extent very well known. Applicable knowledge is very well known. Like today, we spend so much time in compliances, lawyers, legal documents. You take so much time understanding, correcting, and all this is easy to learn and apply. So definitely, this is a big disruption we'll see, not in 2 years, 3 years, maybe 5 years, but wherever there is a low-hanging fruit, it'll definitely come there. In the software industry, one area which is definitely affected is ability to. So we took tons and tons of programmers, right, in last 20, 30 years. It's like you build one product, you take one technology, you build one system. But there is a large army of, so one architect, few designers, but large army of programmers churning the code that is required. So we have already seen, like, if a system, a simple web application, complex web application, and all, a system recently, we tried something which we developed in 6 months. Just it was, the entire code was created in like half an hour. You just give the right instructions, your prompts should be correct, you prompt it to do better and better, and AI also continues to give you better results. So
Sure,
all this is going to happen for sure.
sure. So yeah, I mean, you mentioned, things that were taking months is now happening in hours. So Samir, how is this going to impact the business models, right? I mean, you've been leader of company, so is this going to impact the way businesses are, the deals are structured, and eventually it impacts the people of the company?
Yes. I mean, even taking a step back, I think every person, every individual is going to live life differently with this advent of AI. So, for example, how people will learn, what universities need to do to train people, right? As kids enter the workforce, I think the kind of learning will be very different. I think we are entering an age of hyper personalization. Everything that you need, it'll be an array of skills that you have to develop. It's not a curriculum that will fit you. And that's going to be important. So the way that things are taught and the way that things are learned will be very different, 4 years from now, probably 10 years from now, very, very different. I was reading up on the way that we entertain ourselves. It'll probably be very different now with the creation of uh, imagery, with the creation of video, all at the fingertips of a prompt. What would be the future of movies? Can you create a movie that fits your interest? 2 hours for you, just for you to watch. What will be the future of entertainment? We as consumers will change the way we interact with companies and brands we want to buy from. So it's going to be like you have your set of AI agents. The brand that you're trying to buy from will have their set of AI agents, and both sides are orchestrators of machines talking to each other, trying to negotiate a transfer of goods and services, which is going to be so different from what has been, where people shake hands and try to come up with what works for both sides. Now there will be machines that actually do the talking and try to figure it out. And when you do that, the the consumer is changing, the expectation of consumers are changing, which means that the companies that are providing value have to provide it in a very different way, which also means that the employees of that company that are chartered with the mandate of delivering that value have to also evolve. So in all of this, I think business models will evolve into how every customer of a particular company can be catered to in a very specific, tailored manner, which it can be now, and how employees are going to get rooted into the purpose of the company. I think Preeti mentioned that as well. And I think, can touch upon that in our later conversation as well. How the North Star of the company stays rooted and how employees are guided into that umbrella of that North Star while the technology just shifts around you is going to be super important. So I'm very excited because the way that we interact with one another and as a consumer is going to be radically different. It's already happening.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. That's an interesting point you made, especially around learning. And I want to move to Preeti on that point and check on this. What are the new capabilities that we are now expecting the workforce to develop? What is your view on this, Preeti?
For one, I have to say I'm very excited that Radha and Samir are excited because they know business and tech, and if they're excited, I feel like I'm in safe hands. There's Thanks for that question, and there's a similar question in our chat as well in the Q&A from Gitanjali, who says, "How are we protecting human ecosystems practically on the ground level? Are there some proactive shifts at the thought and process level?" So, coming back to the idea, what new capabilities are required? I would say that um, we need to change with the times, right? We need to be able to adapt. We need to be able to think differently. We need to cultivate our mental models. We need to develop a range of new capacities. And some of these new capacities are one is systems thinking and adaptability. We
Hmm.
can't move without it. The ability to see the interdependence, the interconnection around diverse functions, diverse ideas, actually, the idea of diversity sits right at the heart of all of this to say, how do I take the both and move forward from there? It's not going to be my perspective vis-a-vis Radha's. It's going to be my perspective and Radha's and Samir's that's going to create that magic, whatever portion. The other that comes to mind is emotional intelligence and cultural agility. Now, deep empathy and the skill to navigate across cultures, generations, diverse perspectives with authenticity, with the idea I know who I am. I can show up with interest, curiosity, and interest in the other, and actually genuinely so is one of the most critical capacities we need to develop for our immediate future. The world has changed. The way we interact has changed, and because we are now communicating the way we are, look at us today. We are in, 4 or 5 different locations. It shows that our we have to have a common language, which is not culturally withheld, which is actually culturally integrative. Um, Keeping with my both and idea as continually valid, I would also say digital fluency with human wisdom, because our technical skills, AI coming in, absolutely critical. But the wisdom to know when to leverage AI and human judgment, these are both extremely critical to how we emerge as people, as a community, as families, as workplaces, as a race. Both are to be held with great care. I don't think we should be scared of AI. I like the idea of AI being a tool for me, lens for me, rather than AI controlling who I am, because that's not going to happen. The other capacity I would say is continuous learning mindset.
mm,
Change is the name of the game, it always has, and we need to unlearn a great deal to relearn. And thus, making sure that we stay curious through this. And finally, the idea of purpose driven resilience, finding meaning and maintaining that energy in very uncertain times. Anything that is new is scary.
mm,
The first response is fear or rejection, because here's the the way the human mind is made up. Whatever we don't understand, we dismiss. I can name scores of people who dismiss the idea of AI, who don't come from tech, of course, dismiss the idea of AI 2 years ago. But in the last 1 year, AI has completely changed the landscape, and they're being compelled to learn. So, learning that resilience in these times, and also being aligned to our own purpose. So, I would say tech and human, learning how to engage both, and working across a range of capacities is extremely critical for us to make these shifts, and they have to be proactive. We're not going to be invited to the game.
sure. Yeah, I like your point. You mentioned that it's going to be it's right now it's AI assisted. Very soon it'll be AI driven, right? I mean, if you do not make this shift, you will get left behind, right? Um,
Yeah.
so so in that context, I mean, there's just following through on that. How do uh, what kind of work can organizations do to create this adaptive culture, the culture that keeps learning from what's happening? What kind of initiative they should do?
Yeah. Great question, KP. And I have to say that this is something that everybody should listen to carefully. The question itself, answer has many answers, and I'd give a perspective that's mine. Is one is embedding a culture of coaching into our daily operations. Now, culture of coaching means, do our leaders have the ability to listen? Do our leaders have the ability to be less directive and more engaging? Do we hold space for something new to happen? And I'm not talking about formal programs alone. I'm talking about this, subtle nuance that permeates in a system that uh, needs to be valued and intentionally created. Organizations need to recognize in these times they will have to start celebrating failures more than ever before, because psychological safety comes from experimentation and seeing things fail, and let setbacks be rewarded, and let's look at what more can we do. um, Not to forget the fact that this is also required by the new generations that are stepping into the workplace. They're very different from my generation, and I'm a Gen X. Very, very different. These are far more vital, incredible people who are coming into the workplace who want more. Uh, I could be regimented at a certain stage of my life. These are not people who are going to, stand in queue. These are people who are willing to change the world. So bearing that in mind, which also leads to the idea of designing diverse learning styles, because learning styles have changed. To Samir's point, how we entertain ourselves, or what the entertainment system looks like today, is going to be different. People learn differently, and Generational differences are going to be really key in this whole idea. Uh, Leadership has to recognize that they're learning facilitators. Otherwise, they're going to become redundant because actually everything has become circular. This whole idea of a pyramid is gone. And I have to tell you, I celebrated with great glee because I've never been a fan of it. I have never believed that there has to be a person at the top and everybody has to adulate or enshrine that person. I believe that there's a circular system and somebody leads and somebody follows, but it's an adaptive, beautiful dance that happens towards progress rather than adulation and then, all the blind spots that come with it. And finally, I would say that connect our learning to impact because when people see how development leads to uh, individual fulfillment, organizational purpose, collective flourishing. Taking the uh, what was the warm and fuzzy, which it never really was, but organizations saw it as that. Taking what was invisible, making it visible, connecting it to impact, and ensuring that this is seen as one container. People, purpose, generational differences, diverse ideas, diverse learning styles, how we engage AI, technology. All of it is one container. So organizations, if I were to say, I would say it's a wonderful wake-up call to put your value uh, to both tech and people.
Sure. I like your analogy of, pyramid versus a circle. In fact, I've heard of another analogy where, it should be like those Tweety bird formations in the sky. So there's one
Mm,
bird that's the leader for a while, and then
yeah,
as the direction changes, there's another bird that's actually leading. The leader is now the follower, and after a while, there is a third leader that emerges. So I guess that's
absolutely.
the kind of style that needs to be promoted by the leaders. If the
Absolutely.
leaders don't believe, then it's going to be that much more difficult.
Nature teaches us so much. The way the starlings move, or the way geese move, when they're traveling miles and miles.
Mm,
Learning to recognize that our job as leaders is to facilitate. Our job as leaders is not to, raise the height of my chair. So it's a uh, it's such a on one level a spiritual idea, but on another level a spiritual idea that has practical implications. We need to learn how to be better leaders.
yeah, true. Since you brought up the topic of leaders and leaders changing, I want to move over to Radha and ask, okay, as a tech leader yourself, what qualities or maybe mindsets do you believe tech leaders must cultivate so that they are now able to successfully lead in this hyper distributed, hybrid, AI augmented era? What kind of a mindset change do you recommend tech leaders should bring in?
For tech leadership, also, it's going to be a learning, iteratively learning experience because today it's all kind of happening and there is a lot of buzz, but you are still um, looking for more evidence, looking for more uh, for it to become reality in workplace because at least wherever I work, wherever I see um, with companies in different teams in different stages and they are trying out things, they are experimenting, looking at where there is more leverage, where there is a need to adopt something or no need to adopt something. So it's couple of years of this kind of trial learning. And in this, the leadership has to be participating because they cannot just say that, okay, go to try this and come back to me, because you have to take critical decisions based on what's the outcome and where do we invest, because this is not cheap also, it's not coming for free, right? If you have 1,000 people organization and making these tools available, having so many licenses. So AI, for one thing, is not going to be very cheap for organizations to adopt right away. They have to take careful decision as to how this will go. And so, yeah, so this is what, like just now, it's like try, observe, look at what's going to happen, enable your team, and then let it grow. For product design companies, like where there is a huge play of the architecture, how you design the product, how you converted that design concept to a product, rolled it out with quality and all. One advantage I see is that turnaround times can be faster. There can be faster proof of concepts, there can be faster with not the entire product, but pieces of product can be productized faster and the wait time is much less. So the assessments of the leadership on many fronts on the business side can get much better. Today it's very people dependent. You are a large engineering organization, work is distributed, work is planned, everything is given to different levels of teams. And then teams will come back and tell you that this cannot be done at this time. We are delayed by 6 weeks, we are delayed by 3 months, there is a technical glitch and all. So there is an opportunity to try out many things much faster than what happens today. The knowledge is there, the this is a matter of doing the right thing to prove something, validate something. So I see that as a big advantage in this whole scenario. But yeah, it's like it's also very people led, how they would adopt, how they will learn, how will they will start using the tools and enhance the whole contribution. That also is going to be, we have to see how that happens, because there's a lot of talk just now, not everything is in our hands.
True, true. So you've been a mentor yourself for other tech leaders, rather, and during your experience, which mind shift has been difficult for people to experience, where there is internal resistance that's coming through?
I mean, there is often debate on the productivity, velocity, quality. And while as a leader or as someone who's experienced, you can see that all this can be done. It can be much better quality. There can be a lot more perfection in something, a lot more products need not be like too much functionality, can be simpler. But somewhere it gets caught in details, somewhere it caught in somebody's mind and collaboration, and all those mind shifts always are difficult, because I have seen the technical leadership work together and it's very difficult to come to a decision, a decision on use of on designing a piece of technology. And can there be some other ways to now try, prove, and move faster than so? That has been difficult for last 20 years also. So because people have their own ways, their own thinking, their own exposure, but there is no one source of truth in this, because you build something, you try it out, and then once you go to the customer, it's a completely different. Once you deploy it in a large enterprise, something which you built in your lab, then the proof of the product comes more from there. So as we have been going, the virtualization, our ability to use resources from the cloud, it has given us a lot of freedom to experiment, because what you could do in your small data center versus what you can do on a cloud provided on demand um, uh, servers and compute infrastructure has made a huge difference to what you can deliver. So these mind shifts, I have seen a lot of resistance on the decision on technical problems, on collaboration, uh, in sequencing things when there is a lot of interdependency among teams, and all that can we, I mean, I'm curious also that can we make a huge difference to that way of working, because you have something which can provide you faster results, and you can perhaps collaborate better because you have one more way to validate.
Sure. Yeah. So that acceptance to experiment and allow it to fail fast and
Yeah.
expect that it something that was taking weeks can now happen much faster is one of the difficult mindsets to go through change.
And also, the quick thing I can add here is that the products are very complex. The enterprise products that go today, very large. If you look at the storage products, the storage is in the cloud, storage is on premise. You are managing things between lot of centers. Lakhs of people in a company are using the resources, and the scale is very different. And so there are a lot of challenges in all of this, and delivering to that challenge, building products, conceiving them in the R&D center, and bringing it, making it to that scale has been a huge challenge for everyone. So some of these things that should definitely, you start much higher, and now you can go to, you don't have to do all the basic foundational things which we can get more readily out of the AI.
Yeah,
Sure.
KP, if I could make a point here, I think you asked about mindset. I think there's another way to look at it. You know, through the history of time, right from say the Industrial Revolution to every time there's been a major shift in technology, whether it was the age of the computer or it was internet, digital, mobile era, it's always been prosperity at the other side of that technology change. But what has changed is the duration for which the technology shift happened at those eras. So it took a century for the industrial revolution. It took decades for say computer age, and every time this shift is now shrinking. So AI,
Shrinking.
the AI era is now months. You see something completely radically different. That allow and the question about mindset that allows people who are brave, who are courageous to solve a problem. The barrier to entry to create value is probably the lowest it has ever been. So someone who says, I want to be an entrepreneur, I see that there's a problem to be solved. I don't need the capital or I don't need the time or the effort as it would have taken me 5 years ago, let alone 20 or 50 years ago, to actually make it happen. So as we change the mindset that the barrier for me to actually jump in and do something great to create value for others is is better now than ever before. And I think that's going to be a radical shift. Problems will be solved faster that will just uplift everyone at the end of the day, which is very exciting.
Sure. In fact, I was about to get to a similar question for you that, now with that change happening, what kind of a career path change do you think it will result in? Is it
Uh,
going to be,
Sorry.
obviously, it has to be much faster. The career paths have to evolve. So, what evolution are you seeing on that front?
I think when Satya Nadella became CEO of Microsoft a decade or so ago, he said we've got to change our uh, mindset from being a know-it-all to being a learn-it-all, and that is very apt. It was apt then, and it is probably more apt now. So when we look at career paths, it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be a ladder, and I think Preeti mentioned the hierarchy, and it should be uh, more of a fluid circle. I, I think it is going to be how you can assimilate an array of skills that are appropriate and right for the time in consideration for the problem to be solved. And as that shifts, the career path needs to be I need to learn something more and learn something again, maybe unlearn five things to learn two more that are of value. It will not be a linear path of career progression. It's going to be a leapfrog elsewhere to maybe a sideways
Yeah.
shift to be leapfrog forward. It's not going to be just a straight line for success, and which is a good thing because you are constantly evolving as a person to learn something new every day, which is a very good thing.
KP, bringing in a conversation you and I were having prior, just to,
Yep.
just to bridge the gap, is the cultural shifts that somewhat redefine our leadership styles. And these would be moving from command to curiosity. One of the things that completely intrigues me is how AI doesn't work without our prompt.
Mm,
We need to step in, right? It's not it, there has to be a somewhat of a dialogue. And as I was learning, and I still am learning AI, I'm learning treat it like a real person. So it's a dialogue, not a directive. In fact, when I give a directive, I don't get great responses. When I get into dialogue and get into relationship, there's something interesting. So from moving from command to curiosity, learning how to integrate a culture of coaching, looking at vulnerability as a strength. It's such a key element that we should be able to speak about our journeys and who we are with openness so that we can learn from it and others can learn from our journeys. This whole idea that we all need to make a separate set of mistakes and then we all need to learn on our own is a false idea. Means, wouldn't it be great if we could? In defining this circle, something that Sami said brought up this thought to my consciousness that the idea of a circle is not to erase the pyramid. The idea of a circle is to actually enhance efficiency. Because what a circular system does in an organization is it prompts the matrix to function well because there is a matrix. And that matrix is otherwise going to have trouble because now I have to listen to my boss and I have to follow this process and I have to do this and that. But now, in a circle, when we say we are all owners, we are all entrepreneurs, we are all the bosses of our own verticals, we actually start navigating the matrix. I would also say, and this leads to actually, before I get on to the next, is the distributed leadership model style. So I don't have to be this heroic leader. I can tap into the network and let somebody else lead today. Cultural fluency as a competency, very, very critically important. Code switching across cultures uh, with authenticity, learning how to engage with somebody who's entirely different from me. And finally, I would say balancing this idea of profit with purpose
mm,
is the workplace. Uh, and the way I like to read it or think about it, and as I read it in my own head, is purpose can actually be a catalyst for performance rather than say we need to balance the two. It's not the should, it's actually when I'm really purposeful, I will perform. When I'm fulfilled, I will engage with the workplace. And thus recognizing that the idea of efficiency, performance, productivity is one that it's a behavior. It comes from feeling. Feeling gives rise to thought. And drawing that linear map and recognizing that if we take care of how people feel, the possibility of uh, engaging at the workplace is higher. So it's sort of again a little bit of a dance, but it's true. When I feel good, I do better. Uh, and finally, to that discussion KP and I were having, I would say that the idea of stakeholder capitalism is completely changed. It's expanded. It's about well-being. It's about community impact. It's about environmental sustainability, and it's about profit, and it's about productivity, and it's about efficiency. So I think the overriding theme again there is the both and. Back to you, KP.
sure.
So glad you got back.
Thanks. Thanks, Priti. So in this era now, what skills do you expect the coaches to learn so that they stay still relevant with these changes happening around?
Well, one is that we as coaches need to most certainly recognize that our approaches has to be different. We have to be able to mingle the idea of technology and human potential and look at it as one, not as separate. Uh, I would also say that this optimization of the human AI collaboration is something that is learned. It's not an obvious. So stepping into that game with consciousness. To me, that stands out as the most critical skill. But I would go back to some others that I learned and that are important to me. One is, as coaches, We need to get over the idea of enshrinement. We know better, because this age that's come up already is one that's going to dismantle all existing hierarchies. And as these hierarchies are dismantled, one of the things that'll have to be unlearned so we can relearn is that we are no longer the ones who are, sort of have a better understanding. We don't. Thus, this process of coaching is one where we are partnering, where we are mirroring, where we are recognizing from our coachee what we need to learn, where we are adopting our edges. So, coaches need to step into this as far more grounded humans than we ever have, alongside the idea that there's going to be AI human collaboration, and we need to learn to how to optimize that. Um, I've lived with this belief, and I have enough evidence to now show for it in 35 years of work, is that at the very crux of it all is a human innate need to be fulfilled and to flourish. And coaches need to see that as more critical. So sometimes move beyond the topic at hand or integrate the topic at hand is what is driving the person. So tap into their purpose rather than just their uh, session goal. Uh, I know in our coaching hierarchy, it comes at the MCC level where we are more with the flow of things. But I do believe that even ACC coaches need to get conscious of this fact. The idea of purpose is because the idea of fulfillment has become non negotiable.
Yeah.
And the idea of fulfillment is critical to define how we show up at our workplace, in our relationships, in society at large. So, if I recap, I would say three points: AI human collaboration, learning how to ground ourselves as humans, and recognizing that this is a process of learning and unlearning and relearning, and it's not going to be stopping anytime soon. Tapping into the purpose of the human along with the goal that they brought to you in the session.
Sure. It's, the message is clear that it's going to be along with AI, right? So the coach will need to take AI as an ally. And in fact, I've seen in many of my conversations when I do a one-on-one coaching, especially if it's a virtual coaching, the AI assistant joins before the coachee,
Mm,
right? The coach is all the assistant is already taking notes.
yeah, yeah,
A couple of times I pointed out, see, principally this is against what I would like to happen, right? But then he comes back and says, you know what, anyways, we will anyways need to track a few things that's going to come out of this conversation.
right,
I
right,
might as well use that as an aid, right? Uh,
yeah,
let's use it, right? Let's use it to make our lives better. And that's where I think, Radha, I would want to move to you and say, if this is going to be the new norm, that people are going to use AI as an aid, there is this obvious um, doubt or threat that, you know, there could be a bias. There is this threat for data privacy and ethical considerations around the privacy of the data that's getting stored with all these conversations. So where do you see this evolving, and how will that get addressed over a period of time?
So that's a good question, because saying all this is good, but now it's a question of a lot of regulatory um, uh, enhancement also. I mean, as the AI grows and has its own mind, it has to be kept within a regulatory framework, and it cannot be a free for all thing. Second is, today the learning may have been a lot on the countries, mostly the US and the companies that have worked there, the data sets that have been used in all this learning, how unbiased the data sets are. Third is, as a country, like let's say India, now I don't want to give our data sets for somebody else's AI to learn. So there is a big thing about how do you enable it. Like I don't want to allow the data to go privacy to be violated, but yet at the same time, for the technology to develop, we have to provide some kind of a platform, some kind of a regulatory framework so that you make certain part of data public, but you keep it private, and always with consent of people or a large group of people you use that data. So there is a lot of work required, and the governments have to think, because this all this is happening over and above, which has happened to technology anyway. That while the governments are catching up and building their views and policies, which is typically slow, and you have to take into account all the local, your own country specific needs, yet the companies who have invested can move 10 times faster and bring all these things to your doorstep, and people have no say in this matter. But now this thing is very different. The AI era is going to be very different, and governments have to, they have to, like we say, leaders have to know. The leaders are there who are running the countries, and they have to be in sync with what is going to be our role, our policies, our stance on this. Yet we don't want to lose out on what is happening.
True.
So I see a lot of work in this, even when we casually give examples of hospitals using AI and this using AI. Doctors today, our healthcare data is not consolidated. If I look at our country, and there are lots of practicing doctors and all, but all this data is very distributed. The languages are different. A lot of cultural differences are there. Even for us to learn and make all these things useful for our context is a lot of work on the technology side, as well as there is a lot of work on the governance side, which needs to be there. There are think tanks working on it, but we have to build those views. And it's not like, it's a little bit casual conversation these days. People go use chat GPT and come back with documents, text, and everything. But this is much more deeper than that. And
Yeah.
that's where we have to take the responsibility to how it should be, have a view on how this will be managed also.
Yeah. In fact, I was speaking to a friend of mine who's from the fraternity of coaching, and he said, he was dabbling with chat GPT, right? And then he said he gave a prompt saying, read the ICF core competencies and the code of ethics and create a series of prompts that a basic coach would ask. Right. I mean, if that becomes a reality and it becomes a coach bot, future, I'm sure there are already such examples. All of this information is getting captured somewhere, right? And it's going to become uh, some sort of a tool that some coaches can actually leverage on, right? So their mundane tasks can get eliminated, if not eliminated, at least reduced. But then all of that data is getting somewhere. There is a chance of that getting misused somewhere.
And cybersecurity will always remain a huge threat, because whatever you can leverage all this for good use, you can use all of this for very destructive use or targeted uh, security threats. And I mean, the wars today are machine versus drones versus the human beings. And it's like a lot more of that can happen as we go forward.
Sure. I'm just being cognizant of time, and I remember Rajiv asked us to set aside over 15-20 minutes for the questions to be answered. But before we move to the questions, I want to gather thoughts across the table. With all of these changes happening, is there something that's still going to be constant? And what is that constant for you? Preeti, should we start with you?
The human spirit. The human spirit is constant till we, of course, destroy the planet, but I hope there's some time to come. I believe that Our ability, our awareness, our consciousness is the constant that allows us to create what we have. And we have created AI. AI
Mm,
didn't create us.
human spirit. Rather, what's that one thing that's constant for you, even in future?
Yeah, I think I agree with Preeti, and that with whatever our extended social uh, networks are or presence, whether it's family, whether it's your, because there will be a lot of desperation for a lot of time. People will be losing jobs. There will not be so much of engaging activity. Somebody is doing everything for you. I mean, the fun of writing a piece of code and it crashing and you finding your bug and fixing it is was the excitement of learning, but somebody just gave it to you. So you have to find your peace and solace and sort of
Mm,
meaning, purpose of life in something else, and not just like work was so important to us, but maybe it's not there for many years in your early stages of life when you just got educated and you didn't get a job.
sure. Yeah, yeah. That finding that purpose is still going to
Yeah.
be constant. So, Samir,
Meaning,
what
meaningful engagement.
meaningful? Yeah, true. What's your idea of that will remain constant in future with all these changes happening?
For me, like the definition of joy for me is happiness with contentment, and in order for that to happen, and it's I don't know if you're Daniel Pink's book called Drive. It's an amazing book.
Yeah,
Talks about intrinsic and extrinsic motivations, but in there there's a section for purpose, mastery, and autonomy, and it's a yardstick that I religiously follow, for myself, for folks who surround me at the companies I work in, and I believe that purpose sort of anchors you, uh, but the concept of mastery is changing, and that there's an uncertainty around the mastery with all the things around you, and if you don't adapt, you won't feel like you are the master of your craft, because once you have those first two, you have the autonomy to fly. And I think once that comes together, you find true joy at work and in life. And the role of a coach in this sort of a jigsaw puzzle is to instill that purpose, mastery, and autonomy in every person that we touch. That would be mine.
great,
If you
great. So,
may I add to what Sami said, that the idea of mastery is not just about your skill in your craft, because your craft has your skill and your capacity, which is your mindset. And that intermingling is what creates magic.
that's beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you for these words. And I want to move on to a lot of these questions that are there in the Q&A, right? And Rajiv, if you could help us flash these questions onto the screen for us to read, and we can pick each one of them. There you go. In an era where AI becomes a first line coach, how can organizations preserve and nurture emotional intelligence and leadership skills? Very interesting question. Preeti, would you like to take an initial stab at that?
Well, I would say make emotional intelligence development, make emotional intelligence or developmental and intentional, not accidental. So become more
Intentional,
intentional, coach.
become more intentional.
Create
That's the
structured
answer.
opportunities. Yeah, and create structured opportunities for human interaction across functional projects, mentoring circles, difficult conversations, identify the EQ gaps, reward
Mm,
leaders for developing others,
mm,
uh, manage the EQ uh, trophies without practice. So design work that requires us to be intentional and emotionally intelligent. I like to call it VQ, as in us together. What's that leading to?
got it. Got it. So there you go. The answer is, make it intentional and not accidental. Um, Can we have the next question, Raji? Hello, Preeti. Could you please deep dive on the thought of coach being more grounded in this era of AI?
Hmm. Well, the idea of groundedness is that it all starts with us. Being grounded means you know who you are, even when everything else around you is shifting, and everything else is shifting. So I would say there could be a couple of anchors. One is, what is your presence practice? How do you practice presence when everything else is shifting, moving, is disturbed? And for me, coaching, and I continue to say this even in the coach education programs that I attend or teach, is I need to coach myself first, and everybody else comes after. If I've managed to crack my code, then I can move into the next stage, which is others. Uh, the other is, recognizing the human fundamentals, like Samir mentioned, joy, but also recognizing pain, fear, hope, and these haven't changed in 1,000 years. AI can analyze patterns, but only human beings can witness the struggle that we we experience. And how do you witness it? With compassion, with kindness, with curiosity that holds space to the other. And finally, I would say this is about your unique wisdom, your lived experience, your cultural background, your spiritual practice. AI has data. You have embodied knowledge. AI does not have embodied knowledge. AI has the ability to take the embodied knowledge of scores and millions of people and analyze it and hand it back. So groundedness is not a resistance to change. In fact, it's the roots that if we develop well, they can be deep enough, and I can dance with the wind. I don't have to be static. And when we are grounded, you can use the AI as a tool. I can use healing practices. I can use, other initiatives that matter to me. And the more digital our life and world becomes, the more precious, authentic human connection becomes. So I would say honor this process even more than we do.
There you go. Yeah, respect the whole process and honor
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Let's move to the next question. How will speed of business impact speed of coaching? Are we getting into speed coaching or slow coaching? Interesting. Samir, any thoughts on this?
Well, well, I think every company, big or small, and I've led uh, companies that are in the growing stages. Bias to action is in our values. Adapt is one of our core values. So the speed of business is inevitable, and I think it's going to increase the need to be more intentional about the speed of business is a necessity. But what is also necessary is acknowledging that it causes uncertainty because there's so much that we don't exactly know as a business, as well as the employees of the business. And you know Google had this study about like Project Oxygen and the need for managers, or the need for or the importance of coaching within an organization, how it transforms the business. Now, when you're changing the way that you operate the business, it's also important the way you change the way you coach your people, because they have to be able to transform along with the business. And that's part of empathy. You have to be empathetic that they are going through a time of uncertainty just as the business is, and you have to make sure that they are okay with it. Coaching becomes extremely important there.
Yeah.
So it's neither fast nor slow. It's optimal, is what
Yes.
is the
Right.
message. Yeah. Okay. So let's move to the next question. What happens to the human creative muscle with use of AI? Now, even creative work is getting done by AI. Example, brand names for offerings. I think rather you should ask this. You should answer this question. What will happen to the human creative muscle if AI is going to do all of the creative work? Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question, and always it's not a fear, but I see humans also going past that and being more creative. And I think, uh, like I was listening to Sam Altman, and he and a lot of technical people feel that, oh wow, this is exciting time because I can do so much more. So today, a lot of mundane things are taken care of. So maybe branding or giving it a name was an exciting thing, was like it was exciting to write a piece of code. But now, since this is all done, you can actually do much more than that. Look
Right.
at all the podcasters in the world. Like I keep looking at them and I feel that, did this exist ever before? Like so much knowledge is coming from there. They have such creative questions. They have n number of topics. Like there is so little overlap, and there is more and more of that is happening. So I'm very sure that human spirit is like, it'll go past this and keep creating newer ways to be very creative. And it's like the world is also going to move to a different lifestyle, different. I mean, do you need to come and switch on a light? Like now we walk to a room and it just starts. So that is going to agriculture the way it happens today and the way it will happen in future. There is huge amount of creativity possible, and the constraints may be. So I just want to add a little bit here that I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and these are tech entrepreneurs and all. Because of all this platform being available, whether it's cloud, whether it's AI and all, their takeoff is becoming much faster. If I have a problem definition, I can move much faster. But do I go get stuck is the next round of funding. I get stuck in scaling, finding the market and all. So my challenge, which came used to come later, has come earlier, and now I have to still solve that problem. So in everything and creativity also, it'll figure out what needs to be done over and above this. Like going to Mars and solving that problem when you are in your 12th standard may be a very done thing, and you don't have to worry about anything else.
Sure. There's no limit for
No,
creativity.
there is no
Firstly.
limit because somebody else's machine is simultaneously solving so much of the everyday problems that we have. It's a different thing that will traffic problem get solved, that I don't know, but
Well, and and if I may add to that, AI will is democratizing creativity, but it can't replace human meaning making. We make the meaning
Mm,
of that. Of course, AI can generate brand names, and Shipad, I actually sent you a written response to this, but it can't tell your grandmother's story that inspires your business vision, right?
mm,
Our creative muscle evolves from curating, contextualizing, and connecting. We become creative directors of AI, not competitors of AI. And thus, the
mm.
human gift is intentionality behind creativity, knowing why this matters, to whom, and what deeper need does it serve. So it's a, I think the theme that's really important for me today is always a both and yet we are the creators, and we shouldn't forget that. We shouldn't approach this entity or this energy called AI with fear. We should engage it as a tool that supports and serves our needs
I
as
think
we
I
go.
will differ a little bit on that because technically speaking, it can go beyond our hands also, because we are trying to make it self-learning and self-improving and self-evolving. So
Most certainly, but on the basis of data that we have provided, that everything that exists by itself, there would be nothing. It was all that was filled in the human container, and that exists on the World Wide Web is what it can analyze. If there was zero, then it would analyze you. But for another time.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's a longer
yeah,
discussion.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And I think we should all get used to using the word and more instead of but, because that was one of my input that was given to one of my mentors, that the moment you use the word but, you have negated whatever you've said till that point. So start using the word right? So this and this is going to happen. So I guess that's what we're heading towards. So let's move on. I think I want to answer as many more questions as we can. Rajiv, uh, Rajiv, are you able to flash the next question for us, or shall I just go pick something from the Q&A I'm seeing? How do we maintain the human essence of coaching while also embracing technology, data, and AI-powered tools? What should coaches hold on to, and what should they adapt? What is the coach's identity in the digital era? Very long question, but sounds very interesting. From Indu, uh, whom do we start with?
Well,
What do you
I'll
think?
hand it over to Samir.
I mean, what is the coach's identity? At the end of the day, the coach, in Star Wars parlance, you are Yoda, right? You are the one who is the guide for the hero of the story to achieve what they want to achieve,
Yeah.
and that that element of empathy cannot be lost. That element of uh, helpfulness cannot be lost no matter what technology comes about. I think it is, and even adding to the previous conversation, it is about amplification of work, and no matter what that work is, whether it is creative or not, I think even in the coach's body of work, it is how it is amplified to do and serve better. So I think understanding the specific needs of the coachee based on what they want, I think a very tailored, measured plan can be made with the help of AI, uh, possibly always being there with the person as a digital coach. That is your identity as a coach that follows you, follows the coachee to give advice when you are not available in person, might be an evolution of this, because it is your thoughts, trained model of yourself as a coach that is with the coachee at all times. So I think it's going to be interesting how that evolves, but the core value of the coach of being empathetic and helpful will always be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say to Indu, I would say hold on to that idea of sacred presence, deep listening, the ability to see someone's highest potential when sometimes
Mhm,
they can't see it themselves. Irreplaceable human gifts.
mhm,
I would also say adapt on how you gather insights, schedule sessions, track progress. Recognize that your identity shifts from information provider to wisdom catalyst, which has always been our identity as coaches. And if that's changing, please bring it back to who you truly are. We are the curators of human possibility. And our digital world is critically important to us because it's changing our reality and also surfaces the idea that authentic human connection is really critical, really important to us as people.
So I can just quickly add a point here that in this conference, like it's going seamlessly, we are talking. I can't see the audience, can't sense the audience. And that's exactly a similar, the human missing piece. I think it's very important to us, whether it's coaching, any one on one interaction, or this kind of interaction. I think we do crave for that. So
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's really true. Sorry, I think we missed the question that was flashed. Raju, could you bring that up? What is the new walk, crawl, run paradigm when AI takes away the need to walk and crawl? Can I move directly to run? How? Very interesting question. Nada, this could be your backyard question. And I know Jayashree is on the stage, which only means we are running out of time. We should probably answer this question. What is the new new run paradigm rather in the AI age? Are we jumping to run? without walking and crawling?
I can give it a shot. I would say that the old way was learn the basics, which is uh, the crawl was practice the fundamentals. The running is what are the advanced skills? Become an MCC coach. Uh, I think AI is bringing another paradigm into this, and that is saying learn how to fly uh,
Mhm.
and do it in a sustainable fashion. And the danger in thinking flying equals mastery is that while we might have great content, it's not the same. We need to be able to unpack the why behind every output. We need to understand that we are surrounded by change, and thus asking ourselves those coaching questions that we ask others. Um, the time is now. We need to do it now. We need to attend to what we position to others as important, as asking ourselves, why am I in coaching? What does it do for me? Am I really capable of doing this? What are the skills I need to inculcate? What technology do I need to learn? And that's the flying part of it, because the AI certainly is giving all of us wings. There's no denying that. But the rootedness of this whole process is the human spirit. And how do we combine both? Is us to learn, for us to learn. Being a learning coach, being a coach who's constantly learning.
Sure. Okay. So, Jashri, are we completely out of time, or do you think there is time for one more question? We- You're on mute, I suppose. Jashri, we can't hear you.
Sorry. We have to say this sentence periodically for us to know that we are online.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? And you're on mute. Yeah, so Ram is already there in the other session on backstage. So yeah, I think we need to end this. However, if any one of you is going to stay back, there's going to be a break after Ram's session, Ram Ramanathan's session. And that is when people can join you maybe in the lounge area on the tables. So we have assigned tables as per sessions, so people could join you, and if you are there, you can hang out with people and maybe ask more answer more questions. So I can see that for this particular session, I think there have been, I think, the most number of questions, and so thank you for intriguing conversations. And I think, my heart is definitely missing a beat in terms of, am I really now running, crawling, walking? What do I need to do? Correct. So you've managed to kind of, shake us, and that is great, because complacency is not good for anybody. I was also very, very happy to see most of our sub themes emerging in this conversation in terms of courage, the humanness, the compassion, the curiosity, collaboration, and of course the competence, right? The whole excellence piece, going deep, diving deep and aiming for excellence, I think that was stressed. So thank you so much, all of you. We know that you are really busy, both Preeti and Samir. We know you've had to get up really early to be with us today, and KP, I know you have to go back to work after this. And Radha, I know you are busy in many of your pursuits, but I think we are all extremely grateful to all of you for your wisdom, for your very, very practical insights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very
Yes.
much.